Welcome back to a new Anno 1800 episode. Today we'll cover everything you ever wanted to know about clipping, one of the most important secrets of Anno 1800 to master. You may be a casual player, a beauty builder, or a min-maxer, clipping is useful for everyone. And even if you're an Anno 1800 expert, I guarantee you will learn something in this video, especially in the final section of the most useful example of clipping. Today we'll cover 4 things. The first one is a quick recap of what is clipping and its benefits. The second is to understand if it's a bug that will be fixed soon. The third is to understand which building can be clipped, which cannot, for both vertical and diagonal clipping. Maybe you don't even know what diagonal clipping is, so stay tuned for that. And then lastly, I will show you some of the most useful examples of clipping so that you can replicate them. I'm StratGamer, covering strategy, city building, and simulation games like Anno 1800 with reviews, guides, and let's play. Click on the red button below to subscribe so you really help support the channel and you never miss another video. Also, don't hesitate to share in the comments below any other questions or requests you may have about clipping, Anno 1800, or even other games. Clipping is a technique that you use for buildings that have a circle radius. Things like the trade union, as you can see on the screen, also town halls, arctic lodges, the harbor master office, and others. Clipping happens when two precisely aligned radiuses will impact a single building. For example, when two trade unions like this one are impacting a single factory. So why is that important or beneficial? Well, by doing this single building will get bonuses twice. Twice the number of items, including the possibility to have twice the same item, as you can see here, double redundancy twice, but also twice the palace or local department passive and policy bonus. As you can see, we're getting the plus 60% twice, and we're getting the skill labor act twice. So with clipping, you can reach higher productivity levels, zero workforce needs, get a lot more byproduct for free, and other benefits. Clipping really is mandatory if you want to reach records of population, but it can also help beauty builders to produce a lot more to sustain their beautiful cities and much more with less buildings. Now you may be wondering, is it a bug that will be fixed soon? And if so, then I probably don't want to use it because my save is going to be broken, or am I cheating if I'm using it? Well, first of all, clipping is not a new bug which was introduced recently. It's been in the game since the early days. If I'm not mistaken, it actually wasn't in the beta version, where you needed to have 60% coverage radius of a building, and therefore clipping was impossible. But then from the game launch, you only needed 50% coverage. As you can see, I'm covering 50% of the building here, 50% here, and with that, clipping was introduced. So again, right from the get-go, as far as I understand. And while there is a clear consensus in the community that the game developers probably didn't really intend for clipping to exist, the community managers have been pretty clear that it's not going to be fixed. So yes, it is sort of a bug, but it's not going to be fixed. And as I said, if you really want to reach any of the records out there, be with the min-maxers, you have to use it. It's fair game, all the min-maxers are using it, and even beauty builders like Taka are using it. For example, in his recent series, 1 million population beauty build, he is definitely using it. And you will see it in most of my min-maxing videos for sure. Now let's talk about which building can be clipped and which cannot be clipped. And as I said earlier, there is actually two types of clipping, the horizontal and the diagonal clipping. This is what I call horizontal clipping, where you're cutting the building in half, either vertically or horizontally, while this is the diagonal clipping, where you're cutting the building in half via the diagonal. You can do vertical clipping if the width and the length of the building is an even number, things like 4, 6, or 8. As you can see here, this is 4 by 6. So this one can be clipped vertically, as you can see. On the other hand, you can only do diagonal clipping for buildings that, of course, still have a length and a width that is an even number, but that number also needs to be equal, meaning the width and the length needs to be the same. For example, this one is 4 by 4. Another example is the gas mine in the Arctic. So if you're wondering if you can clip something, that is easy. Just put it here, count the number of tiles, and you will see if it's an even number, you can. If it's not an even number, you cannot. And remember, this is not only for the trade unions, but also for things like the Arctic Lodge in the Arctic, the Harbor Master Office, and the Town Hall. And in this last section, the most important, I'm going to show you the best example for each of these. And I guarantee you will learn something here. Let's start with one of the most famous in the Arctic, the gas mines. These gas mines are 4x4 buildings, so you can clip them both vertically and horizontally as I've done here. This is a very famous example because there's only 4 plateaus in the Arctic, each with a few gas mines, and therefore your gas production is quite limited. There's also very few items that increase the productivity of those gas mines, so very quickly, clipping is the only way to increase your production further. Without clipping, you can basically cover 8 to 10 gas-fired power plants, versus if you clip as many as you can reach 17 gas-fired power plants. And here it is, as you can see, we have 2 gritty gas extractor, because one from here and one from there. Please note that because of the strange shape of those islands and the fact that of course we cannot move without mods those gas fields, you cannot clip all of them, but this one we definitely can. And because the Arctic is actually the same map for all players, every time you start a new seed, the Arctic is always the same. There is actually a map on the wiki that shows you exactly where to place your Arctic lodges to maximize clipping and gas production. I'll put the link to that map in the video description below. Another example is the public mooring. You can only have one per island, so clipping it brings obviously unique advantage, like enabling it to have a very high chance of legendary visitors. Similarly to the gas mine, it's not like you can do it everywhere, but there's definitely a number of shores where you can do it, like this one. You can see here it is covering, and here it is covering too. The important for this building is actually only this part here matter, this doesn't really matter at all, so you'll be able to find that quickly. This next one is also with Harbor Master offices, but different buildings. It is actually for the sailing shipyard, and it is amazingly powerful. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for the steam shipyard because the land is 7, so it's not an even number. But it does work for sure for a sailing shipyard. You can have 2 Harbor Master offices and therefore put twice the same items. You have items, for example, like these two, which are decreasing your workforce, but also the construction cost. -35 for this one, -30 for the construction costs. So if we put it once again, you can see something quite interesting, which is that all of the ships now are free. They don't consume any resources, in particular no weapons. You don't need to produce weapons, you can have as many ships as you want to go to war, or also to just sell those ships. You know, you build them, just sell them, that's basically money forever. Now let's talk a bit about trade unions. There are many usages for trade unions, but I'll cover 3 critical ones. The first one and most known is to be able to have many items that produce free goods. For example, here on my cab assembly line, I have Susanna the steam engineer, and she produces an extra good of light bulbs, 1 every 4 cycle. Now obviously if I clip, I have 2 Susanna, so every 4 cycle instead of 1, I will get 2 of these extra good. The second usage is quite similar, but for me even more powerful. It is the impact of the policies. We now have twice the impact of the Department of Labor, plus 60%, but we also have twice the Skilled Labor Act, or the different policy, which in this case will produce 1 out of 3 cycle and a free steam carriage. This is huge because now obviously every 3 cycle I get 2 steam carriages, and that doesn't cost me any resources, right? It's completely free. They don't take more inputs to make these. So the more resources, the more complex the resources you need to produce something, the better it is. So for steam carriage is great, but for something like the lacquer, it's even more powerful, right? I won't need any ethanol, won't need any resin or sand, which is all of the things that are a bit hard to get by. But the third and final is the preferred of Min-Maxer. It's an amazing one, and this applies to the forest type productions like wood, wanza, or also the fur. With 6 items instead of 3, you can really reduce the number of trees needed. For example, you know, this one is plus 30% forest density, so having it twice is huge. And with that, you can have a 100% productivity, you know, available area with just 1 tree. That is amazing. I only have 1 tree, instead is actually here. This is the only tree in this whole space. Everything else is covered by houses, buildings, or tiles. It is still working as much as it could. So with that, you can have islands full of population, which obviously for min-maxer is quite important, but even for beauty builders, right? You can have now a forestry inside your city. It may not be super realistic, but it could look very cool. And this third usage is also basically linked to the lacquer production or the gas mine that we mentioned in the past. What it means is with clipping, you'll be able to make those buildings efficient versus you couldn't before because there was so few items, for example. So for the gas mine, very few items. For the chemical lacquer plants, similarly, there's very few items. So being able to put the double redundancy twice on the building really makes it a lot more worth it to have this building. On top of it, obviously, we have all of the other bonuses. So that's why this is a great usage of clipping here. Lastly, you can also clip town halls. Things like the police station, the bank, or also scholar residences. As you can see, this scholar residence, because it is a 4x4 and not a 3x3 like all the other residences, you are able to clip it. But to be honest, it's most of the time not really worth it. It's not gonna change your game to clip a police station or something like this. And even for the scholars, this is just one house, right? It's not gonna change your game to clip it. Hope this video was useful and entertaining. Don't hesitate to smash the like button if you did. It really helps me and the YouTube algorithm to know to share this with more Anno fans out there. And I hope to see you next time.